challenges that you occur in music, especially recording and promoting your own songs and getting shows?
Oh, that's a deep question. So I think with most of them, a lot of it, let's say with the recording, is maybe firstly like having the budget to be able to record where you want. But as I said, for me personally, I just saved up to it. So I found the place I wanted, had an agreement, and then I did a payment plan. So that's something that I encourage artists to think. Negotiate with your producer. You don't have to pay everything up front. In fact, it's best if you don't pay everything up front. So like a payment plan. Finding the budget, because depending on where you're recording, sometimes you really want to record that the producer is great, but you just don't have the budget. But I always say you can negotiate. With like promoting your music, I think in the beginning, it's, especially if you're a new artist, it's getting people to believe in your vision. Maybe especially if your style of music is not like popular at the time, but I think there's always someone out there who's willing to listen to your music, so don't give up. Find stations that are like open to your style of music or like alternative sounds. That really helps, and it just takes one person to play your song, honestly. And once you have that, document, because a lot of times people get like promotional opportunities, but they don't document. So there's that. And I think also just generally for artists, it's the fact that you're doing everything yourself in the beginning. So I think that's one of the big challenges. Like, you're going to studio, you're recording, you're songwriting, then you're the same person who's promoting the song, the same person who has to get a band together and like organize the show. So it's literally just balancing everything you have to do. I think that's one of the big challenges, like how you split yourself to do everything. But I think for me, what I've learned is like trust the seasons, do what you can where you are, and then like slowly build up.
So there's this issue that most artists face, even the big ones in Hollywood. It's about owning your own music, because once you sign into a record label, you no longer own that music, and even if you pull out, they own it. So as an independent musician, like, how do you make sure that whoever's coming in to produce your music doesn't get ownership over it?
You have to be very clear about it. Like, that's why before you even sing a note with a producer, you need to negotiate. So before I started working with my producer, we had contracts, and I took that contract to like an intellectual property lawyer who does music. Again, don't just get any lawyer because they say they're a lawyer. Get a lawyer who understands your specific art industry or your industry, because they could be intellectual property for tech and different things. So I got a lawyer, and I told them, okay, this is what I want, and there was a contract, and they were like, okay, but you haven't stated that you will own the masters, because that's what I had said. And so it was added into the contract, and so that protected me. So I think it's really important to have the negotiation before, and even if, say, you do co-own it with the producer, it needs to be really clear what percentage you each own and why that is, and is there duration. So it's, again, getting legal counsel will really help, and just educating yourself. I think also, even if you think of like a lot of the Hollywood artists, like they were signed, a lot of them when they're really young, so the decision was made for them, or maybe they didn't know about music business, but now times are changing, and you can obviously negotiate a better deal.
Wow.
Yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
How do you stay, motivated and passionate about your art, and at the same time manage to handle, the business aspect of what you do?
Oh, I think there should always be enjoyment. I think if you have enjoyment, it really helps, and like have enjoyment now, but then also some for the future, and like be very grateful, because not everyone gets to be an artist. I think now when there's like the views, you need to get 1 million views, you need to get these many followers, we can sometimes lose sight of the fact that it's actually a privilege to be an artist wherever you are in the world. So I think reminding yourself that, and then always having things that you love part of the process. So I love performing, I love songwriting. I try and make sure that I do that, because then it grounds me, because the promotion side I also enjoy it, but then sometimes I don't want to do the business. So always trying to find that balance, and then having a great support system. Have people who will cheer you on. Like, if you have negative people around you, you're just gonna, like, that's how you're going to be. So I think who you have in your circle is also really important and helps you stay motivated.
Right.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the internet and obviously social media, how it's changed the game when it comes to art. Over the years, music and art has evolved.
Yes.
And that also means you're for the relationship between artists and their money. So what are some of those unique lessons you've learned, as time goes by, especially for this internet age, when it comes to, balancing art and business?
Yeah, one, keep track of things. So, for instance, if you're recording like a song, keep track of the costs. Like, how much did it cost you to make that song? Like, as I said in the beginning, tracking your income and expenditure is really important. So, for me personally, I've tracked how much it cost me to make, let's say, my album, right? So that when I'm trying to like make money off it, I know this is how much I want to make back all the money I put in there. So, keep track of your expenditure and your income. Two, like, as I said, know your money habits, and don't use the line, I'm an artist, so, no, that's not an excuse anymore. There's knowledge out there. Like, it's okay not to know, but you now have access to knowledge. So it's really important. Number 3, know that you have the power to say no. If the deal doesn't serve you, you can negotiate. If somebody approaches you, they saw something. So you're not at their mercy. They may make you feel like that. Even if a label comes to you, there's a reason why they came to you.
True.
Like a label doesn't come to you if they don't think they're going to benefit. So remember, you have leverage and negotiate accordingly. A lot of times, whether it's a producer, a manager, a label, you think they're your savior. They're not. You're the gift. You're the talent.
Oh, I love that.
Right? So walk into a room like you have power, because when you think that way, you're going to negotiate really differently than if I think like my life depends on you giving me a break.
Yeah. Do you work with a manager or do you handle things yourself?
So right now I'm still self-managed, but I did hire a PA recently, which has really helped with like booking interviews and doing a bit of the admin tasks. I have looked for a manager, but because I'm so used to doing a lot of the stuff myself and I'm pretty organized, if you're going to come in and be my manager, there's a certain like expectation I have, but I am in talks with some people, so hopefully it will go to the next step.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Where do you see music evolve into moving forward in in this age of AI? Because I was listening to a conversation the other day, and there's a lady who said, the internet is really cheapening art these days. Like anyone can come up with like dope art because of AI, Amazon, whatever software. But you as an artist, you're working hard, you're thinking outside the box, and you're being creative. You do the meditation, all those other things. Whatever your creative process is. Do you think it's true for artists? Like we're living in such a bad era for artists. Is that true? Like there isn't like that soul connection with art anymore?
No, I don't think so. I think AI is a tool, just as the way internet is a tool, social media is a tool. So it's how you choose to use it. Some people can choose to use it to make music. Some people can choose to use it in a positive or negative way. I think for artists now with AI that can kind of do what we do, not exactly what we do, it's important for us to build community around what we do.
I like that.
Right? And I think if COVID taught us anything is humans crave connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's what art does in its own way, whether it's a painting, whether it's music, like you want to connect. And most of the times you want to know the story, like why did they paint that? What were they thinking? Like, so if you lean into that, I think as an artist, you'll have a longer career. And I think you'll also benefit because it's like you give energy out and you want energy back.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I think like just shifting your perspective, see how AI can help you. Maybe you can use AI to write a proposal, right? To get funding for your music rather than seeing it as like it's attacking your art. And I think whatever you focus on, you get more of. So focus on how you can use AI to your advantage rather than it's come to take your... No one can take your gift.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
What about the fans? Because, for example, KOT, I'm a KOX these days. They come off as very brutal, bloodthirsty. Like they love you today, but you do anything crazy, they're going to eat you alive. Especially for artists. And that's why some people, I imagine some artists are like, guy, what I say, man, need your art. And go, oh my God, the comment sections. Yeah. So do you, for example, yourself, does it ever bother you what people say about your music, especially on social media?
Yeah, I mean, I think for anyone, like what anyone comments on who you are or what you create, it will affect you. But I think for me, what I've learned is it's important to build like really deep self-worth. Like your opinion needs to matter above everyone else's, because if it's only dependent on what everyone else says, then that means you're going to be waiting for everyone else to approve of you.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for you, one, to accept yourself completely. It's not about perfection. It's not because you've done great things. Like you are enough. And so for me, I really delve deeply in that. Like I take time to be like, I applaud you, Olivia, you're amazing. Like, and then also like, as I said, surrounding myself with people who will affirm me. It's not lying to me or like not telling me when I'm wrong, but people who will encourage me to be better, but also celebrate me. And I think when it comes to online, yes, there's a negative, but there's also the amazing stuff. And I think it's good to see both, because then if we only see the negative, then that's where we stay. And sadly, that's what we attract. But there are people, like I've gotten so many opportunities. Most of my collaborations conversations that I've had with like artists from different regions were online. Like they DM me on Instagram or Facebook. I got a DM from someone from a label in London, an A&R, and it turned out to be this awesome like EP that I did with them that was played on BBC Radio.
Wow.
You know, so there's also that. So I think I'd like to like have balance.
Yeah.
Maybe also because I'm a Libra, so like I like the balance.
amazing.
But I think yes, the fear is valid. It is there, but like I think you need to be on your own team because especially if you're not, like then you will really see all that negative stuff. Yeah.
What sacrifices do you feel like you've made just for the sake of you pursuing this art and business? And so maybe people you had to let go. Just sacrifices you've made.
I think one, I really had to accept that not everyone's going to be happy.
True.
And not everyone will go with you in every season. You know, like there's some friends you're like, yeah, we're gonna like rise together. They don't even have to be artists. Like you maybe assume that as your career grows, everybody is going to come with you along the ride. That unfortunately is not always the case. And sometimes it's very painful because they're like the family you chose.
Yeah.
So you're expecting, let's all celebrate. And then also like different stages in life. Like as a woman, like I've chosen deliberately not to have children until now because I wanted to focus on my career. And so that is a sacrifice I made. It's not necessarily an easy one because being in our context, you'll be asked questions and why don't you do this and that? And I've had people I've dated who've had their opinions about that. So I think that's one of it. But then to me, I see like it worked out for me and I'm grateful.
Wow.
Yeah.
In your money conversation episodes, is there a guest that you had onto the show where whatever they spoke to you changed your whole perspective about how you manage your finances?
That's a good one. Wow. I think there was one. Her name is Susan Wanjiko, so you should definitely check her out, and I follow her to this day. And she spoke about having like money dates or money meetings with yourself, like regularly. And I'd never really thought about it. Like I was like, you'll do your accounts and you'll keep track. But she was like, no, you need to date money. Like you need to spend time with money. And that really shifted my perspective. And when I started doing that, I really saw a massive difference in my like finances because I was actually taking time, not just to see how much have I spent, where's the money going, but to actually dream and be like, okay, what do I want money to do for me and how do I feel about money? So when she said that really shifted a lot for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Earlier you mentioned how art is a privilege, and I believe that too. So because of that privilege, do you feel like you have the responsibility to, write music or, come up with art that addresses societal issues? For example, we just came off probably we're still in this whole revolutionary phase, as many usually say. Do you feel like you have do you feel like you're obliged to talk about some of the things that are affecting Kenyans, for example, or the world in your art?
So how I feel about that specifically is I feel that there's different roles for people in a revolution. There's some people who will bring like the activism and shed light to certain things. Some people bring healing, some people bring enjoyment. And I think each artist has to pick what role they want to take in that. I'm also not saying that you shouldn't, but I feel like it needs to be your choice. I don't think it's a must, because if you do it because that's expected of you, I feel then it's not honest, and then you're just doing it because you have to do it. So I don't think that artists should. And also on a deeper level, I feel specifically as African artists, it's something that we have almost been forced to do.
Wow, okay. What do you
specifically mean? Like when you look for funding as an artist, they'll normally want you to have like a sad story, right? You have to do on climate change, you have to do like and like in other regions, they're just told create art.
Just make beautiful art.
Yes, right? And we should be allowed to do that.
You need to have artistic freedom.
Yes. And so I'm a very big believer in if you want to do activism with your absolutely do that. But if you don't, it's also not wrong. You can be an activist in a different way. Sometimes like in the midst of when we were having like the protests, there was people like the people who were enjoying at the end. Like, I think there were like people clubbing in town like after that massive. Like, do you know what I mean? So I think there needs to be like all ranges of artists. And so don't feel like if you're not an activist artist in the conventional way, then you're not serving with your art. Yeah.
Just be yourself.
Yes.
Just be yourself.
Do you find it difficult to switch between maybe creative and business mode? If there's such a thing.
For me, no, because I'm really used to switching. Like just generally, I've always balanced a lot of things. So for me, no, it's not that hard. I think I'm used to being like a contrast of a person, so not really. But what I try and do is like I have like batch working sessions. So if I'm doing on my creative stuff, I try to do them like together. Then if I have admin, I do them together, because it just kind of helps for the flow of the brain. Because sometimes when you're switching from too many things, your brain just goes, okay, this is too much. So I think that, but I'm kind of used to like juggling a lot.
You know, I'm reading an awesome book called Big Magic by a lady known as Elizabeth Gilbert.
Oh, yeah.
She's amazing.
Yes.
Yes. So she mentioned this thing called the creative curse, in the sense of, you know, you're very attached to your creation, your craft, to a point where nothing else out there makes sense. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes,
and then when you get negative feedback, for example, somebody critiques your art, you get very personal. You're like, what? It's like you're questioning my identity, how I perceive the world.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I know it's related to kind of what JP was asking about the challenges.
Yeah.
But creative challenges. How do you stay consistent with that creative spark of yours? Do you always have phases where you just have a creative block and you're like, I can't even think straight, and then you keep on tearing these lyrics, so how do you go about that quote unquote creative curse?
Yeah, I think I had a very like pivotal moment after I finished my album in 2020 and I released it. Like I had pinned everything on it. I was like, this is going to change my life, it's going to be so different. And then I released it and I didn't get the feedback I wanted, and so I felt like, oh my gosh, what happened? But then in that moment, I realized that I'm a whole human being. I am an artist, yes, but I have other things in my life that matter. And so I needed to also prioritize those and not like put my life on hold for my art. And I think when I started doing that, I became more creative, because I wasn't pinning everything on being a successful artist.
I love that.
Yeah. And so I freed myself from like, you have to get 1 million views, you have to be successful this way. Like I was like, what do you want to do? You want to create art? Yes. You said you'd create an album? Yes. Have you done it? Yes. Now release it.
So what's your why?
My why for me is enjoyment. Honestly, like I want to be happy and just live a life that I am proud of. That is my why, and show up as authentic as I can be, and that will change, because I've seen what happens when you're not happy and when you're trying to live somebody else's life. It's miserable.
True.
So for me, it's like, what matters to Olivia? What makes me happy? And so that's literally my why. Yeah, and I love lots of different things. I mean, music ultimately is one of my favorite things. I love like other creative practices. Like I'm also a graphic designer. Well, I used to do graphic design, so I'm inspired by that. But yeah, I realize that life as a whole is really important to me. So like I named myself Ministry of Enjoyment of my own life.
We need to have one of those, because
we need more
ground.
Yeah.
Our enjoyment is dwindling.
Yeah, and so that, I've learned to bring joy now, so that it's not like, okay, when I retire or when I'm at this age or when I achieve this thing. So I think that really is my why right now, and maybe in a few years or months it'll be different, but for me now it's just being happy.
Your energy is so chill, yeah, your energy is so dope. Like no faking, I swear I can tell you're so chill, very cool, collected. You come off as very sharp. You have a very positive mental attitude. So how did you get here, man? How are you so grounded and people out here are so stressed?
Well, I was not always this way, I must tell you. I think I used to before like want to control a lot of things. I wanted things to go a certain way, and I was working really hard to be like that good student, that good daughter, that like good woman, whatever good is. And then I got to a point I was like, I'm tired. Like, I'm just tired.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think also being a firstborn daughter, like there's that, or firstborn.
There you go. Firstborns, the bar is too high for you guys.
Yeah. But then I got to a point where I think the older you grow, the more you can observe, well, if you choose to. And I remember when I was observing like certain things, like how different people talk and how their life is, and then just how I was feeling about my life when I'd speak a certain way. And I was like, you know what? I think let me just tweak something small. So I started with just like speaking differently about myself. And then I was like, okay, this feels kind of nice. And it just kind of grew from there. I think it's like, when you start looking for something different, you start to see more of that. And then I went down this like journey of just deciding that I want to have a more positive outlook in life, because I'd rather be happy now than wait for the future and then be like, I wish I was happy. Yeah.
So music is all about storytelling. Is there a specific song for you that resonates deep because it's a personal story?
Yeah, I think my single called Better Than Just Fine, it was the first song I ever released, and for me, it kept me going. Like when I was working on my album, like I literally almost gave up because I was like, I'm done. I've given too much to this. I don't have the budget to finish. And it literally is just saying like, I've been walking this road too long to give up right now. You know, I've got to keep on going. It's going to be better than just fine. Like it literally was an affirmation. And there's a part in the bridge where like in the middle of the night when you're there alone and you're feeling like everything is just going off, like believe in yourself. And so that for me literally is like my anthem. And it literally is a story of my life at times. Like, so yeah, that for me is a very personal.
And you know what? let's get into that tune right now. Better Than Just Fine by Olivia, Ambani, and then we're coming back to say peace. Okay. You know, now guys, remember, we're live, www.spicefm.co.ke. Also live on Facebook. The handle is at SpiceFMKE. YouTube, same, Keep it locked. Don't move on that hashtag. We're coming back in a bit. 28 minutes after 8. Enjoy some Better Than Just Fine.
It's gonna be alright. Better than just fine. It's gonna be alright. Better than just fine.